Hello and welcome to another episode on the Dragons Are Real YouTube channel. I did a video a few weeks ago on using Obsidian for RPGs, and as some people kindly pointed out, part of the right hand side of the screen wasn't captured, so when I referred to it, things weren't actually shown on screen. So I've decided that I'm going to do another video on Obsidian, and hopefully now the whole of the screen is going to be captured, and I'm going to talk about some of the plugins that I've been using, and we're going to have a look at these plugins in some details. So the way to install plugins through Obsidian is we go down to Settings and Community Plugins, and we can browse for community plugins. We can just look through, or we can search. And the plugins that we are going to be covering today is 5e Stat Blocks, Dice Roller, Initiative Tracker, and Text Format. So we'll be having a look at each one of those. You need to install them and enable them, and you'll also notice that each one of these has got their own options. So let's have a look at 5e Stat Blocks first. So the options you've got here is that you can import your own monsters if you use any of these applications here. I don't use any of them, but if you do, then and you've got monsters you own, you can import them there. So what does 5e Stat Block Importer do? Stat Block do? So let's create a new note, and this is going to be a Goblin Stat Block. So that's what we're going to create here now. And the Stat Block Importer, it actually includes all the 5e monsters from the SRD. So the syntax that we're going to use for this is the same for all of them. It is 3 backward slashes, backward ticks, then it's stat block, and then if it's a monster in the SRD, you write monster with a colon and the monster name, followed by 3 backticks. And when we go into view this, you can see nothing's happened here, and that's because I've not used a capital letter here. It is case sensitive. Now when we do it, there we've got the stat blocks from a goblin, and when you have multiple windows open, then this will auto resize. So if I do split vertically, so now on the right hand window you'll see it, and on the left hand window we can now write some stuff. So that's the first thing you can do. So you change that, and you can pick any monsters out of the SRD, and you can see there they are. Now what if you want to change them in any way? Let's say that all we want to do in this one is change the armor class. So there are a list of items you can change. So if I change armor class, and we'll change this to 11, you now see that the rest of the details remain the same, but the armor class is overridden. And there's a number of things you can change here: the name, the size, the type, armor class, the hit point number. Let's say we want this to be a higher hit points, so we want it to be, instead of 20 hit points, let's say we want it to be 40 hit points. And let's say instead of the normal hit dice, we want the hit dice to be 4d8. So you can change all of the items, and you can add extra traits and abilities. So let's create our own monster from scratch, and let's see how we do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new document, and this is our monster. So our monster here. So we're going to a template, insert template, and here is our template. So this is where we create our monster. So we call it a giant pigeon, and it's just a matter of going down and filling all these in. So you alter the stats, the size, the hit dice, the armor class, and as we do this, we'll put this preview pane here. You can see everything is changing on the side here. If I want to add saves, let's say skill saves, it's got a skill save of medicine, which is a +3. You can see it adds it to the right hand side here. We can have damage resistances, languages. One thing I've realised is if you haven't got anything, leave it blank and it doesn't appear. But if you put something like an unrecognised character there, you can see we get an error. So just be aware of that. We can alter the CR. And when the CR changes, obviously, then a lot of these other things change as well, the bonuses. To add our traits, we give a name to the trait. And put a comma, and we can then describe what it is after that. With attacks, it's exactly the same. You can do a beak, and let's say it's +2 and 5 damage. Whatever you put in there, it's going to appear in it, and you can put these stat blocks then in your documents. Two other things you can do is you can save them and you can export them. If you export them, they save as a .json file, which you can later import. And if you save them, so we've now saved Giant Pigeon. I know it's not complete, but we're going to do that. If we now go back to 5e stat blocks here, homebrew monsters, you can see now we've got our Giant Pigeon saved in here. So now if I have a new document, let's get a new document, and we'll do stat block monster Giant Pigeon, if we spell it right. There it appears. So that is 5e stat blocks. There's also, if you go and look at the GitHub page, you can see all the things you can change, and it also explains how you put spells in there as well. So that was the first one. That's Obsidian 5e stat blocks, and that's by Valentine195. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is Dice Roller. So Dice Roller, we can roll all files for tags, we can return links, we can also display graphics for a dice roll as well. We can change the colour, the faces, and all these sorts of things in here. And it appears on the right hand side here. So we've got our normal links, and we've also got a dice roller which can appear here. So if we want to roll a d6, we put d6 in there, roll, and you'll see the dice go across the screen, and the result is put in here. If we want to do 2d6, we click it twice, roll, we can do that. We can roll with disadvantage, so let's do two dice advantage. It'll roll both the dice, and it will show us the lowest result, or the highest result if it's an advantage. Or if we do 2 dice and disadvantage and roll, this time we roll a 10 and a 6, it'll give us the 6. And if we click on this, we can copy the result, and we can delete the results from the side here. We can also add formulas. So if we want to roll a d20 plus 5, we can do that. So it rolls the d20, which gives 15 plus 5, and it gives us the result. But what we can also do is we can also put it into our documents. So let's get our document open here and get rid of this. And the format we used for rolling dice it's the word dice within backticks. Backcolon dice 1d20 backcolon. Let's create and you can see now we've got this in here, and if we roll it, we can roll that all day long and it'll give us different results. We could put any sorts of formulas. So if it's 2d20 keep highest plus 5, we can do that. And when you hover over it, it shows you what the result is. 17 and 11, keep the highest, and added 5. So you can always hover over it the same way. If you hover over this, it'll tell you the results over here. Okay, so that is nice, simple ones. We've got keep highest and keep lowest. We can also use D for drop highest and lowest. We can have exploding dice, so let's get rid of this one. Let's have 5d6, and we want them to explode. So you can see here now, it'll roll a 5d6, and anytime a 6 is rolled, it's rolling an extra roll, as you can see from the on-screen graphics. So nice and easy for you to put dice rolls into your games, but where this really shines is we can also reference tables. So I've created one here earlier, and I've created a table, and the syntax we use is dice and the type of dice we're rolling, the heading of the table, and then we just do a markdown table with the results on the left hand side, and on the right hand side we've got each of the results, and then we've also referenced the table underneath. So that's what's going to be called. So the dice we used as before, the backticks is dice, we reference the page it's on, in this case this is weather, and the table is the circumflex with the name of the table. So this now, if we do a table for this one, you can see now it's rolling from the table and it's giving the results between the table. If we've just got a long list of items, we can also do that. So items, we do the table, and we'll just list the items. So bread, milk, orange, and so on. Give the table a name. This one is going to be called food. So to reference this table now, we again do dice. We want this table here, weather, and we're looking for the food. It's a second one down here, and now it'll just roll on the table, but everything in the table has got an equal chance of being found. So we can have a long list of names, for example. This is really handy for something like names. Have a long list of names, and you can just reference a table and randomly roll on the table. So that is again by Valentine 195, and that is the dice roller. So check out the GitHub page, and for more information there and all the different syntax you can use. The next one we're going to look at is the initiative tracker. Now this one is really handy if you are using it in person, which I found is really good. And we're going to create a new note, and this is our adventure. And again, let's have a look at our initiative tracker. We can add players here, we'll come to that in a second. We can sync any monsters we've got from the 5e stat block, so if we do that, we will get our homebrew monsters in there. From sync one creature, so we've got our pigeon in there. We can set our initiative formula, so d20 plus the modifier. And we can import creatures, and we can add creatures manually. But let's just create an encounter now. And let's get rid of this, and again we're going to create a so let's create an encounter. So 3 backticks with the word encounter. We shall give the encounter a name. This is a fight, and the creatures we want followed by a colon, and we're going to have 3 goblins. And closed encounter. So you can see on here we've got 3 colon goblins. That's what we want, 3 goblins. So over here now we created an encounter. We can set up a few encounters. So let's say that's the first encounter. The next encounter is going to be 2 orcs. Now we've got these encounters, we have this in our text, and then we've got a new tab on the right hand side which is our encounters. So if I click on this fight button now, this will add 3 goblins from the SRD into the combat tracker, initiative tracker. It will roll their initiative because we've set that up as their modifier. We've got their health and the armor class. We can also add a status to each one of these. So let's say this one's charmed. We can add the charm status to that, and it gives us a hover over. We can also disable the character, the thing in the monster, and we can also alter its hit points. So let's say this goblin has taken some hit points. We can apply 3 damage to it, put 3 in, and it will take 3 of the damage. If you want to add the hit points back, let's click on it again, and let's say we're going to heal it, so it's -3, that will take it back to 7. The way we start the initiative tracker is click on the play button, and down the right hand side here you'll see as we click on this it will notify that we're going to each of the characters in turn, or the creatures in turn. If I want to re-roll the initiatives, we can re-roll there, and it automatically puts them in order. If I wanted to add something manually, I can also do that. So let's look for our pigeon, our giant pigeon. There it is, and it will include the giant pigeon in it now. But that's just creatures. Now we want to add some players. So there are several ways we can add players. We can add players individually, or we can add players from a list that we kept. So in this one, let's say we're going to create our players manually. So we use players, and Brian is the first one, and that is the second one. So you can see now, if we do this, it'll give us the orcs, but it doesn't include the players because we haven't got any stats for these players. So what we need to do is we need to add some stats for the players. So the players, we can create players from notes. We can create them in the initiative tracker here. We can add players here. So let's add some players here. So we can link to a note the player name. So we're going to call this one Carol. If you wanted to link to a note, that could be a sheet we've got for it. Maximum hit points, we'll say it's 12. Armor class is 14. And initiative modifier is +1. Tick Carol. Carol is added to it. Let's add another one. This one is Alan. He's got 12 hit points. Armor class 18. And he's got -1 modifier. So we've got these players in here now, so we can do it that these players will always be added to new encounters. So if we exit again now and we come back to our encounter, you can now see Carol and Alan have been added to this because we've put them in the options to add them to every encounter. Same if we start this encounter now, we'll get rid of Anna and Brian, we don't need those, and Carol and Alan have been added to that encounter. So that's a nice easy way of doing it. But let's say that we don't want to include the players into it. We can do this by having some front matter here. So with players, if we put false in here now, when I click on this now, they will appear on it. If I put true, they will appear. We can also have players true, and let's say that Carol can't make it tonight, so we're going to add players, and we're going to add Alan only, because Carol's not available tonight. So now if I click on it, Alan appears but Carol doesn't. So that is a nice way of doing it. Another way we can add our do with monsters is we can also alter the stats for them. So let's say with our two orcs, we want to have let's say we're going to add our orcs. We're going to have two normal orcs, and we're going to have one orc, but he's going to be slightly different. We're going to have one orc, but this one we're going to change their hit points, armor class, and their modifier. So the way we do this is we put a comma after orc. Then for this orc, instead of having let's see, right, so we want to have, with this orc, we want to have 30 hit points. We want to have a 8 armor class. I don't know why, and the modifier is going to be 6. So we'll have two orcs normally, and here is our third orc. You can see that they've got 30 and 8. And the modifier is going to be different, which has got +6 instead of the +1, so we can override individual creatures. If we want to create our players, have different players in, we can add front matter to a sheet, and the way to do this is for our players, the front matter you will add to their page will be in that syntax there, HP AC modifier and their level. But again, if you come to the GitHub page, again it's by Valentine195, read all the notes in there, then that is the way you can have a look at some of the syntax to use. Okay, the last one we're going to look at today is not by Jeremy. This one is text format, and this is going to help us when we're pasting PDFs into our documents. So if we go to community plugins and click on text format, this will tell this the GitHub page, and it will also tell you some of the things you can do with text to get rid of things like lowercase text. You can change text to lowercase, uppercase, but where I find it really handy is when it comes to importing text from PDFs. Because quite often the PDFs will be in small columns, and so I'm going to copy some piece of text off screen. Let's create a new note, and let's paste the text in, and let's say that there's a paragraph here. Now what you see is if I get rid of this, the text doesn't go all the way to the outside. So what we can do is we can highlight the text, press Ctrl P, which brings up the panel, and in text format we can scroll down and we can do all sorts of things. We can have all the text selected, change to lowercase, uppercase, title case, but the one we want is merge broken paragraphs in selection, which I've set to Alt-M. So if I click on this now, you can see all the formatting has now made this text fill up that page. The reason it doesn't go from side to side is because in the editor I've got readable line length, but if I get rid of readable line length, you can see now it completely fills it up. So again with this one, highlight it, Alt and M, and there we got, it gets rid of all the formatting. If I wanted to have this in capital letters, Control P, text format, capitalize all word in selected text. Why didn't it do that? Capitalize all words in selected text. No, that was not working. Oh well. Always the danger of live recording. So that is one that I use predominantly for copying and pasting text out of documents and into Obsidian. So I hope you found some useful things there. If at any times you wanted to see what else I'm up to, you can visit the website, and the website is petejones.neocities.org, which will give you links to my audio podcast. It's got some RPG links in there as well, with some stuff that I've written. The latest one being a Troika character sheet in pocket format, and also some links to other blogs, websites and podcasts that you may find interesting. So thanks all for watching, and I'll catch you all on the flip side.